Now, if there is even one fraudster in 500 customers, it destroys the economics of the entire business,
Absolutely.
as you can imagine. Now in India, if you have seen the last couple of years data, the penetration of insurance is not growing up as much as we want it to.
Correct.
India still remains underinsured.
And what I've also realized, people who are 25, 26 today are far more sharper, learned and focused than what we were at 25, 26.
The point is to enjoy what you do.
Absolutely.
And the point is to do well as much as your talents and your skills can take you.
Hi everyone, we have yet another very interesting podcast, Life Uncovered with Vaibhav. We have had few of my ex-bosses coming out of the episode, but this time I've got someone who has taught me so much about how do I present myself, how do I read the room, and more importantly, how do I make sure that I've done my proper homework before entering the meeting room. I still remember our first meeting back in 2015, and it was a very awkward moment. I'm sure you may have forgotten because it was a very awkward thing, but that's the first time I broke a glass in a meeting. You entered and I stood up and just flinged the glass. Very odd thing to do when you're meeting someone for the first time. But thanks a lot for coming.
It's a pleasure and thanks for the kind words.
I still remember, it's been a fascination. And when I spoke to Neeraj in one of the interviews, and Neeraj is from SRCC and FMS and everything, maybe I could not reach those colleges, but I've had a very interesting fascination for people who are maybe our generation or slightly elder to me from one of the prestigious colleges. And because when I talk to people, I said it's not about entering the college, it's about the community that you end up building. It's about the alumni network. It's also about those 4-5 years you spend in the college and the people you spend with. You're from IIT Kanpur, you're from IIM Lucknow. So when you remember those days, any good, interesting memories from those days?
Vaibhav, I think both these colleges that you mentioned, I would say I got really lucky with both of them. What happened was that in class 11th and 12th, I suddenly found about this IIT thing. A couple of my classmates were doing what was called Target IIT at that point of time.
Okay.
That used to be a coaching type of a program on correspondence from brilliant tutorials, very popular in those days.
Right.
And that was my first exposure to the name IIT. I come from a relatively small city like Lucknow, and I'm talking about late 80s. In those times, coming from a middle class family, my awareness levels were pretty low. So the only reason I got into IIT is because I had a couple of my classmates who introduced me to this name, and they used to do fun exercises in the classroom. I would say we were not very serious about our core studies. We were in a Kendriya Vidyalaya. But the problems that Target IIT and after that the core IIT entrance curriculum that we got our hands on, those problems were really interesting. And all of us, I would say, were fascinated by that. Now imagine a classroom in Lucknow in 1990 from which 4 of my classmates came and joined one of the IITs.
Oh, wow.
So that is the type of exposure I got at that point of time. If I had not got those classmates, I probably would never had thought of preparing for IIT. It was something which would have looked very much out of reach. But once I started preparing along with my friends and classmates and started enjoying the process, it became something which gathered momentum on its own. I remember those times when after the school I would reach my home and my mom would serve me lunch. I had joined another coaching called Agrawal classes.
Correct.
And they would have sent their material to us about our assignments, about our studies. And I would solve math problems in one hand while eating with the other one. I got so fascinated by all of that. And that is the thing that I remember the most about IIT, how I got lucky with that, how I enjoyed the process of preparing for JEE. And I ended up doing much better than I did. I also appeared for Roorkee University entrance. It is now IIT Roorkee, but they had a separate entrance examination at that point of time. I remember when Roorkee results came, I did not even check the newspaper for 3 or 4 days. After 4 days, I got the newspaper of the results and I started checking whether I had been selected from 800 rank downwards, and my name was not there.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, let me check the names up there as well.
Yeah.
And I got the rank of 102.
Wow.
So again, I got very, very lucky with all of this process. But I would say the thing that I would suggest to everybody is that they should look at whether they are enjoying the journey itself or not. Many people I know that they start preparing for an examination like IIT or IIM, but they don't enjoy the process. If you're not enjoying the process, then I would say it is still a good idea to rethink about what you really want to do. So, Vaibhav, no regrets from you. I would say you have done amazingly well for yourself, whether you join IIT or IIM or any other college.
Right.
The point is to enjoy what you do.
Absolutely.
And the point is to do well as much as your talents and your skills can take you.
Absolutely. So actually, enjoyment is super critical. And now that you've mentioned Brilliance and Agarwal, I am remembering in our times, in our batch, I was 97 batch of 12th. Agarwal's had just shut down for some reason, but it was supposed to be much better than Brilliance. I had brilliant tutorials. And ours was the first batch where paper got leaked. IIT entrance JE paper. And I preferred playing cricket over preparing again. So I had a cricket match and a JE entrance exam. So I preferred cricket. So I could not, in fact, sit for the entrance as well. But on hindsight, no regrets. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Moving forward, sir, we were together at HDFC Life and fabulous journeys. We did multiple things then. And we also used to get a lot of interesting stories around odd claims, odd frauds. And that's what we hear at Inka also at many times, that what are the checks that are in play? What are the things that are in play? Any stories that you would recall on frauds or things like that?
So, Vaibhav, at the core, if you were to look at insurance, insurance is about risk pooling.
Correct.
What it means at its core is that there are many people who are coming together. They are paying a small premium for covering a high severity, low probability event that could impact any of those people.
Correct.
The odds of different people getting impacted are different, and based upon that, the premiums that different people pay for that are also different. Now, because of this pooling of risk concept, insurance is a contract, what is called of utmost good faith.
Correct.
Because the person who is taking the insurance probably always knows more about his risk than the insurer.
Correct.
So what are the options for an insurer in this scenario is that, one, you have to work with the law of large numbers. If you work with the law of large numbers, you are able to manage your risk in a calibrated manner. You can use statistics and probability and numbers to understand how your risk will pan out and accordingly set your premiums. And you are then in a position to cover as many customers as possible who may have varying degrees of risk for the incident being covered. The real problem in all of this is that if you get customers whose intent is to defraud the company,
right,
then all bets are off.
Correct.
And the reason I say this, if you were to look at an example of a term insurance and life insurance, typically you might pay a premium of 1 rupee to get a cover of 500 rupees.
Correct.
Because the assumption is that the risk probability is going to be less than that. Now, if there is even one fraudster in 500 customers, it destroys the economics of the entire business.
Absolutely.
As you can imagine.
Yes, sir.
And that is the reason for insurers, it is extremely important to look at the fraud part very, very carefully. While you have the ability of managing risk with the law of large numbers, if you have analyzed your portfolio well, but the fraudsters, you have to definitely stop at the gate itself.
Correct.
So what's happening is all of the life insurance companies, I would say, have become very, very collaborative. We have information bureaus, also lots of data available, lots of ability to have insights into the type of geographies, the type of segments, the type of distribution models that could be more prone to fraud, the type of products which could be more prone to fraud. So all of this comes together to enable the insurance companies to protect their business that ultimately enables them to offer the product to a wider set of customers.
Correct.
Now, in terms of stories, I would say what I've seen in the past is that you have some good portfolios. You may make a tweak in those portfolios, and the portfolio starts behaving not so well.
Correct.
So, for example, there is a pan-India portfolio, but in one certain geography, it is not behaving well.
Correct.
And then when you get into that, you find out why it is not behaving well, and then you try to work with your partners to address those problems and ultimately improve the health of the portfolio. One observation that I have is that across my partnerships,
Right.
across my distribution models, across the industry itself, and including with the regulator, the awareness that fraud needs to be curbed in order to expand insurance access to a wider set of customers is very high.
Correct.
So the level of understanding, the level of collaboration, the level of joint action
Right.
to make sure that fraud is addressed is very high. And my hope is that this fraud remains below a certain percentage so that the ability to offer insurance to a wider set of customers does not get impacted.
Correct.
Now, another related dimension of that is that as you go to newer segments,
Right, sir.
as you go to newer customers, newer models, you have to be very careful in the initial phases because your data has not yet matured.
Right.
So now in India, if you have seen the last couple of years data, the penetration of insurance is not growing up as much as we want it to.
Correct.
India
Absolutely.
still remains underinsured. So one of the ways of expanding this would be to go to, let us say, deeper in geographical sense.
Right.
And deeper in customer segment sense. So as we do all of that, the ability to manage the frauds well and the ability to collaborate across the ecosystem will be very critical. And that will, I would say, is one of the things that will launch the next phase of growth for this industry.
Very interesting. So basically, penetration into newer markets is what I
Yes.
understand, and penetration to new segment of customers.
Both of these, and through newer distribution models. Because as you get to newer markets and newer segments, you also need to look at newer distribution models. For example, bank
Absolutely.
assurance is a very big model currently.
Correct.
But if you want to go to a relatively less affluent customer
Right.
in a very small geography,
Right.
then how much your cost of distribution should be, how you analyze the data of that customer,
Right.
what is viable, what is not viable, how does that customer look at the product features, the servicing model, all of that is going to be different. So
Correct.
you have to innovate on the distribution models also.
Right. So if I look back, 2004, 5, 6, roughly, when I was at ICICI Prudential, and there were some management trainees from my college coming into the thing, they were slightly skeptical of joining bank assurance because till then, even at ICICI, agency was the biggest model and bank assurance was growing. And I somehow feel that that's the point at which digital distribution is today. Bank assurance is the largest, but next 15 years or 10 years at least, it'll be digital distribution into these new places through maybe new fintech partners and partners like that. That may pull down the distribution cost. Any thoughts on that, Phil?
Vaibhav, I would take a step back
Okay.
and I would make the point that India is a very large country.
Right.
India is a country with many different types of customers, many different types of needs.
Correct.
So my personal feeling is that many different models will coexist in India for a long period of time.
Absolutely.
The proportion of business from different models will keep evolving.
Correct.
Now, digital, as you rightly pointed out, is one of the most efficient models. Digital is at the heart of a lot of physical processes also now.
Correct.
Even if you are meeting somebody physically, you can have a chatbot enabled discussion.
Right.
You can pull up a lot of videos on the
Right.
fly and explain the product much better than what a pure physical process would do.
Right.
So digital, I would say, has got infused into almost everything that we do across the value chain of different products, including insurance.
Absolutely.
And that probably will continue. What my advice, like you mentioned, the management trainees joining at a certain point of time, maybe around 20 years ago or so.
Yeah.
My suggestion to today, the younger folks who are deciding on their career options, my suggestion to them would be that you have to assume that things will keep changing.
Correct.
Things will remain unpredictable.
Correct.
The choice before us is to keep enhancing our skill set, keep an open mind,
Correct.
be flexible and nimble in our approach so that we
Correct.
can adapt to the changing situations. Like you are right, we all expect digital will grow rapidly, digital will create more opportunities. But what if digital grows so rapidly that it means that humans are not required? then you may have to change tack and go in a different area where there is a human enabled sales or service required.
Correct.
So if you have developed your skill set not just on the digital side but also on the communication side, presentations side, negotiation, etc.,
Correct.
you would be future proof and future ready.
Absolutely.
So my suggestion again to everybody is that assume that expecting certainty in the future is less likely.
Yes.
World will remain uncertain. The choice before us to expand our skill set and the repertoire of our ability to do things to such an extent that irrespective of how things pan out, we are able to manage and navigate that world.
Right. In fact, on that note, I remember when we were together, I used to report into you. You used to share a lot of interesting articles on WhatsApp that this is something you should read, this is something you should read. And that was always very exciting for me that naturally if you're sharing, so you've gone through, how much time in a day do you spend reading new stuff, sir?
So I have 2 points to make on this. If the world is changing so rapidly,
Yeah.
all of us have to keep in touch and keep pace with the changing world.
Right.
What it means is that the most successful people now would be the people who are lifelong learners. So learning does not stop, neither does it start at college or school.
Right.
It is a lifelong learning that all of us have to be a part of.
Correct.
To be a lifelong learner, at the beginning of the discussion, I said you have to enjoy the process.
Correct.
I would also say that you have to enjoy the process of learning.
Absolutely.
Human beings by nature are curious and growth oriented. If you can align your thought process accordingly, that I want to
Right.
grow as a person, as a professional, I want to keep learning, I want to keep expanding my skill set,
Right.
then your journey will be always progressive. And your curiosity will take to newer areas. Like you mentioned, what type of a thing do I read? What type of a thing that I find interesting? If you remember the celebrated book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen
Right.
Covey, one of the habits is sharpening the saw.
Right.
Imagine that you have to do a task, but the tool that you have is not sharp enough. One option is to keep using the same tool to solve a certain problem while the tool is not sharp.
Right.
Another is to take a little bit of a time to sharpen your tool, and then in a much smaller time, you can do the job that you're supposed to do. So time is always going to be the same for all of us. How productive and how effectively we can use it is the differentiator. To do the same job, somebody can spend 10 hours. Somebody else who is effective may probably do it in 10 minutes also.
Exactly.
And I'm remembering an example of a famous mathematician. I'm forgetting his name now. And his math teacher one day was very busy. So he gave the class the assignment of count from 1 to 100 and add it up. And this is 6, 7 year old. And this gentleman added 1, 2, 3, 4 to 100 and then reversed 100, 99, 98 onwards. And the total is 101, 101, 101, 101, 100 times. You multiply 101 by 100, divide by 2. So you can sum all of those in a minute. You don't have to count 1 to 100.
Correct.
You can do the same calculation in a minute if you know the formula, if you have the ability to apply it.
Lovely.
So the learning that you spend your time on will enable you to do things much faster, the type of example I'm giving.
Yeah.
And that will give you even more time to keep on learning. Another joke I would say you would have heard of, that there is a car that has got that needs fixing, and there is a mechanic who charges 10,000 rupees for putting a small screw somewhere.
All right.
And the gentleman says you charge 10,000 rupees for putting a screw.
Yeah.
Right? It is for knowing where to put the
Where
screw,
to
not for the screw itself.
Exactly.
Right? So that is how I view learning. And any time is spent on learning, where your curiosity is taking you and you are improving your knowledge base, skill base, is going to be productive. It will give you more time to do more stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what exactly is happening with most of us at Inka, because few of us who are slightly older are learning a lot from the younger generation that's coming in. And what I've also realized, people who are 25, 26 today are far more sharper, learned, and focused than what we were at 25, 26. Moving on. Yes,
I
sir.
just add that to that is that it's a very important point you're making.
Yes, sir.
And the point is to learn from everyone. The moment we start feeling that we know everything
Right.
and we don't need to learn, one, your mind gets closed.
Correct.
You are no more a lifelong learner. To be a lifelong learner means keeping an open mind and accepting that none of us can know everything.
Absolutely.
When we accept none of us can know everything, and the person who is closest to something will know more about it than the other people have a chance of knowing, will make you open to learning from people who may be much younger than you. And that is definitely a requirement. I would say my son is just 17.
Right.
From the time he has been probably 8 or 10, I have learned so many different things from him in the digital world. For example, many of the new tools of communication that the kids are using now,
Correct.
I would never have used. If you once get used to using WhatsApp for communication, you are not open to changing that thinking process. And when you talk to your kid, he tells you why some other tool is much, much better than that, whatever you may have been using, and why they use some other tools. If you just assume that you know the best and your son has to learn from you, or younger people have to learn from you, that process stops.
Absolutely. In fact, my son is slightly younger to that also. And I'm sure your son also may not be using WhatsApp as the primary mode. There are a lot of other tools which, and their school groups and other groups are also using those tools.
Absolutely.
So
we have to learn from them why they are doing what they are doing, to the extent they allow us to do that.
Exactly.
And take our learning forward.
Yes, to the extent they allow us, that's important. Yeah. So from there, if I move to Pramerica, and we at Inka are super excited to partner with you. We are doing multiple things. And the best thing and I wanted to congratulate the entire team, and through you, I would like to tell them that we are building a journey on our side for you, and that gives us the entire comfort of making sure that the UX, UI, and the flow is phenomenal. And especially the cancer and cardiac product. We love it a lot, but what are your thoughts on the product, sir?
My feeling is, you mentioned journeys. My feeling is that in any transaction that we are doing or our customer is doing, reducing friction is a very important part. I would say a lot of these products the customers need. You mentioned cancer and cardiac, and these are, I would say, very salient products. They are in the minds of a lot of us. But probably we do not know how to go about protecting ourselves from those risks.
Right.
Now, the moment you create a journey that is simple, where the product is easily understandable, the benefits are given without much friction, I would say the customer take-up goes up dramatically.
Absolutely.
And we have Vaibhav worked in the past as well on different types of models where the friction removal was responsible for massive uptake. And I think today we have to also accept that the youngster that we are talking about, their attention span is less. Right. They are used to a lot of different platforms where there is just no friction.
Absolutely.
And in case we can do even a part of that in our insurance segment, the acceptance of the products, the ability to penetrate into newer segments, particularly the youngsters, who are the customers of the future, who need the product the most in the future, is going to be very high. So that is where I would focus on how we can make the journey as seamless, as frictionless possible for our customers, while in the earlier part of the discussion we talked about fraud, and also being mindful of that we need to manage the fraud while simplifying the
product. There should be checks, but as smooth as possible.
As smooth as possible. And the checks, a lot of those can be at the back end also. A lot of them could be heuristics also that enable us to take one step at a time.
Right.
But it really expands the product availability to a much wider customer set. And the take-up percentages from, in terms of how many people got exposed to the product and how many people ended up taking the product, that ratio can keep improving as well.
Absolutely. Without naming, you just mentioned, I think we used to do 45,000 policies a day.
That was only because of the effectively zero friction model that we had.
Absolutely. And what we are doing, and fraud checks is super important. Thanks to my exposure to CIBIL, we have built certain bureau checks in place. So even before you start the journey, we fetch the bureau and do certain checks, but aim is to make sure that the product is accepted immediately.
Absolutely.
And so the beauty on this product, like you said about acceptability and conversion, I have not met a single person who once has been explained about the product has said that he doesn't need it.
Absolutely.
I think it's a product which is actually with a close to 100% acceptance rate. It's just that how soon can we remove the friction and make the journey as smooth as possible.
So insurance at its core,
yes,
because it helps you protect a big risk with a small premium.
Right.
Now you may have heard of the concept of utility of money.
Right.
So what utility of money means that if I have 50 rupees with me, another 50 rupees will not probably double my happiness. But if this 50 becomes zero, I'm ruined.
Right.
So because of this concept of marginal utility of money being different,
Right.
a small premium protecting a big risk
Right.
is a highly appealing product conceptually. It's about taking it to the customer in the right way and for the customer to understand it in the right way. The fundamental psychology of the customer and the individual on utility of money is such that if they understand the product correctly,
Right.
how with such a little premium they're able to save so much of potential risk, the uptake will be high.
Absolutely. And insurance, the concept is that like you were saying, it's pooling of the risk.
Yes,
So claim is a probability, premium is the surety.
absolutely.
So if your small premium, which is a short payment, can make sure that the one rainy day you are covered,
Yes.
I think there's nothing better than that.
And the core is again that we were talking in a different context that the world is uncertain.
Right, sir.
Same way, all our lives are uncertain.
Right.
What we may face in the future, none of us knows for sure. While we may all be taking good care of ourselves in terms of health and in terms of our exposure to risk in danger, etc.,
Right.
we are still not sure how exactly it will pan out for any one of us.
Right.
And because of that reason, any action we take to reduce risk in our lives by taking such easy steps like buying insurance
Right.
is a very, very easy way of improving the quality of our lives
Right.
on a probability adjusted way.
Absolutely. And it's a very off kind of thing, but it's all about planning the right way. And I think I learned a lot about planning through you when I think before your daughter went into graduation for 2 or 3 years or maybe slightly more, you made sure she went to campuses. She was exposed to multiple campuses, hostel life. She interacted with students, and I think it's planning at the right time. Any comments on that, sir?
Yeah, Vaibhav, you correctly pointed out when my daughter was in her class 9th and 10th, we did multiple visits to different universities. And the main change that I saw in her was the opening of the horizons.
Right.
Now, all of us, in a way, get exposed to a certain life, and we may not be able to visualize other lives unless we see them in flesh and blood.
Right.
So what these visits ended up doing was to expand the horizons for my daughter, make her more aspirational, and when she met with other students, there is also a realization that I'm just like them. So if they are here, I can also be here. That gives additional confidence. So the confidence and the aspiration that you get from getting exposed to something worthwhile, I would say gives a lot of impetus to your action,
Right.
and that leads to success.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, from that point comes a different thought. For you, it was pretty normal, but I learned one more thing from you during our Chicago discussion. We were looking at exchanging some handbags, and you remembered the dimensions of the Boeing plane you would be catching and what handbag would fit into the thing. And these are the details, and devil lies in the detail, if I may say. These are the details which are so interesting. So from since when? Is it since childhood that you love these details, or at what stage did you realize?
I have heard of a saying, you would have heard of that as well, that the devil lies in the detail.
Exactly.
And in many situations, I believe it's about the detail as well as about being prepared beforehand.
Right.
And a little bit of preparation ahead of time can prevent a lot of problems down the line. It's just
Absolutely.
like insurance. A little bit of premium paid helps you protect from a big risk.
Absolutely.
Same way when you're traveling, a little bit of preparation about whether your ticket is in order or not, whether your visa and passport is up to the date or not,
Absolutely.
whether whatever luggage you are carrying, it is in line with the airline's policies or not, whether your phones are charged or not, whether you're carrying your medicines or not. So for many of these things, I suggest checklists.
Absolutely.
So for my routine activities that I have to do multiple times, I try and prepare a checklist of a sort, and that helps me be more efficient in the future. And the concept of checklist again comes from the fact that all of us are able to manage a certain cognitive load.
Correct.
Beyond a point, if you have more cognitive load, it will lead to some error or the other.
Correct.
And the concept of checklist, I would say, is a proven concept. It is used across industries which have mission critical functions, and it gives a simple example of a travel checklist. So use a travel checklist, which is like a preparation before the travel,
Right.
and your journey passes much better. But that same concept is applicable across a lot of other scenarios as well.
Yeah. On a lighter note, I have had you as a boss who has nice checklist that you mentioned, and I have had another boss who is an international boss who flew down to India to meet me for around 20 hours. And when he reached at the immigration counter, the counter said the visa had expired, so he had to fly back.
I've had other of my guests in the same situation, so we would be surprised how often it happens.
Exactly.
And that is again, I think it goes to the fundamentals of some of the other things we are discussing.
Right.
The world is getting complex,
Correct.
complicated, uncertain. So a lot is playing on our mind at all points of time.
Absolutely.
How we can manage that cognitive load
Right.
in a better way is useful, and some of the risk mitigation ways we discussed,
Absolutely.
they help reduce the cognitive load or that stress from our mind, which is at the back of the head, but it creates that difficulty in focusing on other things.
Absolutely.
Another is whatever simple tools like checklists that you use,
Right.
so that when you live your life, in general, you are better off than you do otherwise.
Absolutely. So you've mentioned a few times cognitive overload or cognitive things. That's exactly how Inka was formed, actually, sir. Before starting Inka, I met over 100 plus people, and whenever I would ask about insurance, they would say there's so many room rent cap and deduction and this and that, and whether this percentage is important or that percentage is important. So we said, okay, let's remove all the cognitive overload, and that's when people will become open to the idea of buying. And like you said, the frictions should be removed. And any funnel, if you have frictions, the droppage is way more. And for insurance, especially, I say cognitive overload is extremely high with so many choices, with so many sub variables. And unluckily, no one knows the difference between those sub variables.
You're right. I think there are multiple examples of this. So I think all of us have had that situation where we go on Netflix,
Yeah.
and we can't decide which movie to see,
Absolutely.
and we sleep without seeing any movie.
Yeah.
Same way, if you were to look at the other side, Google was so successful as a search platform because of the simplicity of its homepage. So
Absolutely.
just Google and a search bar, nothing else. Same way, when you look at Apple's success, the phone is just a screen and nothing else. So this simplicity that you are delivering to the customer, whether through search by Google or through a screen by Apple,
Right.
behind there is a lot of sophistication. At the front end, the simplicity. And that once it makes it easier for the customer to engage with you. The simplicity enables the customer to engage with you more easily.
Correct.
And that leads to the adoption of the product. Same way I've heard of the concept of people trying to buy cheese, and there being 3,000 types of cheese, and again, they're not knowing which cheese to buy.
Correct.
So all of us sometimes at some level get, I would say, flummoxed with complexity. How we can simplify this complexity for our customers will be a big part of our success.
Absolutely. So, like you said, so we have got on our homepage a bento grade where we simply in common English explain the product, the sum assured, and which variable you need to take instead of showing multiple things. And a lot of people ask, especially from the insurance industry, that there are so many things that you can explain. I said the customer would only get bothered with a lot of options if you show, or for the option also that you have chosen, if you show 15 benefits, he'll get lost. It's important to show 2 or 3 key benefits to make it as simple.
And if they're interested, they can have a look at the remaining as well.
Absolutely.
But there is a time and place for the complexity. At the inception, the simplicity is what will help the customer decide for themselves in the right way.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure talking. I think we can continue for a very long time, but thanks a lot for coming. And I think we generally keep insurance towards the end, but a lot of other insurance related discussions have happened. Any closing remarks that you would want to leave?
So, of course, both of us represent the insurance industry, and
Yes,
insurance industry is, I would say, an industry, and insurance as a product is something that all of us in today's world can take advantage of to reduce this uncertainty in the life all around us, to mitigate the risk, As I mentioned, with a very small premium, all of us are able to mitigate a large risk, and that ultimately enables us to lead a better life.
Absolutely.
So, two better lives for all of us.
Thank you, sir. And
Thanks,
to
Vaibhav.
whatever uncertainty, like you said, and uncertainty is the only certainty in life.
Absolutely. That's the world we are living in right now.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, sir, for coming.
Thanks, Vaibhav.
Thank you. Thank you.